Homeownership provides stability. It's a strong financial foundation for people, and most net worth is built by home ownership, at least in the middle class for sure. So we do believe in it. It's not for everybody, and there's definitely situations where home ownership isn't the best choice for you where you are in your life, but we're going to talk about that right now. We're going to go through the complete guide, start to finish, on the process of buying a home in New Mexico. It's Tego and Tracy Venturi with the Venturi Group. Tracy, we've helped thousands of people over the years, and we wanted to put together this video because we know so many buyers that kind of start this process and they don't even know what they don't know. And our goal is to help them navigate the process. We believe in home ownership, right?
Absolutely. And so let's go through it step by step, Tigo, because a lot of times buyers are a little bit afraid to even make a call because they don't know what to ask. So here it is. We'll help you with all of it, but happy to chat anytime to go into specifics.
Yeah, we really do believe home ownership provides stability. It's a strong financial foundation for people, and most net worth is built by home ownership, at least in the middle class for sure. So we do believe in it. It's not for everybody, and there's definitely situations where home ownership isn't the best choice for you where you are in your life, but we're going to talk about that right now. So the first step is, are you ready?
Yeah, let's start with the big question. Are you ready? How do you know if you're actually ready to buy a home? So here's a few easy ways to figure it out. First of all, Tigo, you put a little thing, interactive quiz on our website, and it asks a few basic questions, to help you understand maybe your financial readiness, your lifestyle readiness, your emotional readiness, timing and life plans, as well as your preparation for the process. So once you go through that, you have a few yeses. Yes, I'm ready. Let's talk about some of the things that you might want to talk about,
Well, some of the things you want to know is like, okay, do you have a steady income?
right?
Obviously, that's going to be a big deal for a loan if you're getting a mortgage. Obviously, you need to be able to make your mortgage payment. Do you have some savings for a down payment? Maybe you don't need a down payment based on some of the programs, which we'll talk about here
Right.
a little bit later.
Also, maybe what's your credit score? Do you know your credit score or do you have a credit score? Because some people think it's really good not to have any credit. And then you also don't have the ability to purchase until you have a credit score to show that you know how to make sure to pay your bills,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
And, there's other things you need to think about is, are you comfortable taking care of a home? This is yours now. You have the responsibility to take care of it. Do you have the money? If something does break in the house, can you take care of it? So,
What
and
about, are you planning to stay in the house for a few years? Because if you're planning to move in a year or 2 years, probably you shouldn't be buying a house.
wait, a realtor said you shouldn't be buying a house? I know,
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
It's unheard of. No, I mean, and again, that's why we're doing this, is to give really good advice. Again, we've seen thousands of deals over the years, and we want people to understand what the process is.
So some of the other things is thinking about your commute, your family, your lifestyle. If you're ready to really dive in and learn about the process, if you're ready to start working on the lending piece, those types of things are important, right?
Yeah, and you're also putting anchors in a neighborhood. You're becoming part of that community. There's definitely something that feels different when you live in a home that you own versus a property that you're renting.
For sure. We've
Yeah.
seen that over and over.
So anyway, in the link below here, I've got the link to our quiz. You can go through it, and if nothing else, just read through the list, and it gives you a really good sense of, okay, am I really ready or not?
And you are probably readier than you think. If you're watching this and you're
That's
thinking about
good.
homeownership, you're probably ready.
A lot of people will start their idea of buying a home by getting on a website and starting to look at homes. And that's fine. A lot of people I know use Zillow just as like almost like their own social media, scrolling homes and looking at homes. And that's fine. But really, if you're really serious about buying, the next step after knowing that, you're ready to do it would be talk to a realtor.
Finding the right realtor. So a lot of times, Tigo, what we see is people are on that site scrolling and they hit talk to a realtor and they don't realize what they're really doing, right? You should choose your realtor, not have some website choose your realtor for you and say you've now been assigned
That
this
was a
realtor.
very nice way to do that, but yes, I mean, that's a longer conversation, but that's a really important point that most people don't quite understand.
If you're in the Albuquerque area looking to buy or sell, call us. Don't let some random realtor get assigned to you, right? But if you're looking anywhere in the country or in New Mexico, we know realtors everywhere and we can help make sure you get a great realtor.
Well,
But
wait, I want to talk about something because this comes up a lot is realtor versus broker versus agent. In general terms, they all mean the same thing. In okay, at 30,000 view level, they mean the same thing, but a
to the
real
public, it's all the same.
yeah, the same. In New Mexico, generally, we don't have agents in the sense of an agency agreement with people. We work as associate brokers or brokers, and then realtors are just a subset of licensed brokers in New Mexico. Realtors are people that are part of the National Association of Realtors.
Right. It's like a subscription,
Yes.
sort of.
Yeah.
So, agent to me, and there are still people in New Mexico practicing agency. That means basically, in my mind, it means if you hire me as your agent, I can speak for you. And the way we work, we're transaction brokers, we're facilitators. We aren't going to speak for you, right? But we are going to have fiduciary responsibility to you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and understand that, when you hire a realtor, a broker, they work for you. They advocate for you. That is their job. But you still make the decisions.
So, finding the right realtor,
Yep,
obviously, we're here for you. What you want to make sure you have somebody who has good local market knowledge, somebody that can represent and advocate for you, somebody that knows how to negotiate. Several people of us on our team were certified negotiation experts. There's actually something about that, right?
for sure.
Somebody that has resources, a network, a track record, a personal fit. Do you jive with them, right? Do they speak your language? Do they get you,
Yeah,
right?
no, for sure, for
Um,
sure. And communication style kind of falls under that as well, because you do need somebody that communicates with you. And I would give, just kind of a pro tip if you're a buyer and you're hiring your realtor broker, talk about how you want to be communicated with. What do you want? Do you want the unvarnished truth, even if it's bad news or whatever it is, right? It's like how
well,
do you want to be communicated with? And maybe it's as simple as do you prefer emails, phone calls, or text?
right. That's what I was going to say. Most people have a preferred style of text or phone or email.
Yeah.
So find that out. But the other part about hiring a buyer broker to represent you is that requires a written agreement of how we work and how we get compensated. So that'll be there before we can ever show you a home. And we'll be disclosing how that all works.
Well, and that was one of the things that many buyers didn't understand were how realtors, brokers get compensated. Well, now all of that is done right up front. We go through it in detail so you understand exactly how everybody gets compensated and you understand it going into the process.
So now you have found your realtor,
Yes.
and the next step is making sure you get connected to a really great local lender
Yeah.
and putting your financial picture out there for that lender so that we can work together. I think of it as a trifecta, the three of us. You as a buyer, us as your realtor, and your lender, all working together to meet your goal of home ownership, right? And that lender, you know, having a local lender, we're going to talk about different loan programs here in a minute. A local lender gives you a little more clout when you're getting an offer submitted. Somebody with a reputation here that doesn't want to mess up because they need future business and they don't want to be known in our community as a lender who didn't get it done when they should have. Now you've got to do your part too. But
Yeah. So the thing with working with a lender is it's not just about getting the pre-approval letter, which everybody talks about, where you get a letter that says, yes, you've been qualified, you've done your credit checks, they've checked your income and so on. But it's for you also, you understand what your costs are going to be. You understand, how much down payment, or if you need down payment, if it's some program, you're going to understand how much money you're going to need out of pocket. What type of funds are you going to need? What is your monthly payment going to be? What are the best programs for you? We talk to lenders and there's hundreds, literally hundreds of different lending programs. And it's not one size fits all when we talk mortgages and lending. So it's really important that you do that. And of course, that pre-approval is still important in the end.
yeah, and one of the things about that, Tigo, is a pre approval A lot of times people pick a lender and they say, I really just want to know what's your rate. Well, we know that interest rates change sometimes by the hour. And what a lot of times home buyers don't ask is, how much do you charge me to do the loan? And a lot of the lenders charge differently. So we want to make sure that you're not just looking at interest rate, but you're also finding out what the lender charges you.
That was a really important pro tip. So when you're shopping mortgages, it's not just about rate, it's also about the fees that they charge.
Right. And when shopping for a lender, obviously we can help you do that. Local is one of the only ways you can get some of the down payment assistance programs. Some of the online lenders or out of state lenders don't have New Mexico down payment assistance programs to offer to you. So if you think you might need help with a down payment, we should talk to a local lender that offers different programs,
Yeah,
right?
so let's just talk about mortgages. You hear these terms out there and you're like, okay, there's conventional and there's Fannie Mae and there's Freddie Mac and there's FHA and there's VA loans and there's
And USDA.
USDA loans. I know that's a lot and we're not going to do a training on that right here today, but understand that's why you need to talk to that lender to see which program it is. If it's a FHA where it's 3.5% down or a conventional with 20% down.
Conventional could be 3% down,
It
though.
could be too,
And that's
right.
that's the deal.
Yeah.
So the thing that we want to help you do is get a really comfortable level of what your monthly payment is going to be all in, because that's what most of us understand. How much monthly is it going to cost me to own that house? So we're going to look at the amount of the actual mortgage, the amount of your taxes for property taxes, the amount of the interest that you're paying, as well as any homeowners association fees. So it's
Did you
and
say
insurance.
Yeah, insurance.
and
Yeah,
insurance. So they call it PITI, payment, interest, taxes, and insurance.
yeah, right.
So we're going to make sure that
Principal.
principal, yeah, not payment, principal. So we're going to help make sure that you're comfortable with your monthly payment. For a lot of people, that's what it's really about,
Yeah,
right?
no, it is. It's what's that? It's just like renting an apartment or a house. Like, what is my monthly payment, right? And it's the same idea. It's like, what is the total? I don't want to know just what my principal and interest payment is. I want to know what everything is going
Exactly.
to be.
So the next step is we're defining your needs and wants. We prefer to sit down, whether it's online, in person, or on the phone, and do sort of a buyer strategy session. We're going to talk about your budget. We're going to talk about what you're looking for in a home. What about that home is important to you? What parts of town are you already familiar with? Or if you're from a different area and you're relocating to New Mexico, we're going to help you get a feel for the different areas. We've got a nice relocation guide. We're going to talk about bedrooms and bathrooms and things, but also, how do you live? Do you need a big gathering room? Do you need an office? Do you need a hobby room? Are you a crafts person and you need a third stall in your garage so that you can make it your
Yeah.
pottery wheel studio
yeah.
or whatever, right?
Well, and so let's just talk. I mean, this is a very common thing. This is no secret, but you need to make your list of must-haves, and you need to make your list of, wow, it'd be great to have.
I've seen lists of absolute must-haves go out the window very quickly sometimes. So yes, let's put together your non-negotiables, but realize sometimes a few of those things might go away as we get familiar with homes, what a home you can really buy with your budget in a neighborhood you want. And that's part of the conversation of that buyer strategy session, is saying, great, I have that list, but what if we found a home that had 9 of the 10 must-haves? Do you still want to look at it? And people say yes.
And so what always happens, though, and this is an important thing, again, for somebody starting
Is
the
this
process.
a pro tip I hear coming?
Yeah, a pro tip. I don't know. I started using that term today, so we're going to use it. Pro tip, in the sense that there's always going to be trade-offs, Tracy, and that's what people want to just kind of keep their mind open to that. It may not be the exact location they want, but it's the exact size and layout that they want. Or maybe it's the exact location they want, but it's not the size and layout they want, right? So you're going to have those trade-offs.
Often what you're talking about, we call the trade-off triangle,
Right.
right? Okay. So most choices come down to balancing a couple, 3 things, right? The location, the size, the condition, size, conditions being one, and price being the other. And a lot of times somebody says, I have to be in this school district and I have to have 4 bedrooms because I have X number of people going to be living with me. Something needs to be adjusted. I had somebody a few years ago say, I have to be in this elementary school and at this price, and I need this many bedrooms. And I sat with them and pulled up in MLS of active listings and said, okay, if I put all those parameters in, here's how many match. And it was 0. And so they started adjusting parameters, still staying in the same school, but reducing the bedrooms or reducing the size or increasing the price until we got to where they could find a house.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
and it goes back to that. And that's why you do need that realtor broker that's going to guide you through that, hold your hand and help you navigate those choices and decisions.
And it was the MLS that taught them. It wasn't me, right? Sometimes I feel like we really need to show people so that they understand the reality of things. And so that was very helpful.
Just a few other things, area specific, the metro Albuquerque area, which we serve. You've got a lot of choices. We've got the Northeast Heights, which there's a lot of, I want to say older homes in the Northeast Heights, depending on what part of town it is. But you've got a lot of newer homes on the west side in comparison, not necessarily Taylor Ranch, but there's a lot of trade-offs there. But you might want more of a suburban like the Heights or the west side, but you might also want something a little more rural, right?
You could. There are lots of rural opportunities from Placitas to Corrales to spaces in Rio Rancho to North Albuquerque Acres to the East Mountains to Harris Cedar Crest to Los Lunas, even Belen.
Yeah.
And differences. So if you say, I want to be more rural, it's different. Do you want mountain? Do you want property that you could have horses or livestock? Or do you want to just have a pet chicken? What does rural mean to you?
Yeah,
So
rural in, let's say, East Los Lunas is very different than rural in, Cedar Crest.
right, exactly. And sometimes we're going to talk about other things too, like homeowners association or not, right? The age of the home, views. Sometimes, there are certain parts of town where the views can be phenomenal. And a lot of people naturally think of the foothills, but oh my gosh, some of the views from Rio Rancho and the west side back to the river and the mountains like Oxbow. I mean, phenomenal views. So sometimes it's what you really want is a long view. And so the more questions we ask about that, the better we can help you because there are long views, where you maybe don't have a 2-story house looming over you so that you feel sort of trapped in your home. So those are fun things we get to talk about when we're doing
Okay.
a strategy session.
Speaking of fun things, and we're only to step 5,
Uh-oh.
and now we're doing the house hunting part, Tracy. And
We're to the fun part.
yeah, it is to the fun part, but we want to explain a few things because I don't think a lot of people quite understand how homes end up on websites, right? So the multiple listing service, many people have heard of it. They kind of understand it. The MLS, if you will. This is where all realtors, for the most part, put their homes, and it's a way that homes get distributed out between all the different websites. For the most part, homes that you see on one national website and another national website, they're going to be the exact same home because all sourced through the same central source, which is in the Albuquerque area, Southwest MLS. The MLS, what it does, it's great. It shows, what is it priced at? What is the asking price? What's the status? Is it active? Is it available to be seen? As well as all the details about the property. And the thing that's good about the MLS, since that's my jam, is the MLS, you can really trust what it says. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So if it's showing active and available to purchase, it's going to be active and available to purchase because it's monitored and policed very well. Just on the multiple listing service, there are homes that you're not always going to see out on the sites. And just so you understand that. And it gets a little more detailed. I don't want to go into weeds on it, but you will see homes that are pending, meaning they're under contract to purchase. They're going through their due diligence and their whole contract to close period, which we're going to talk about in a second. But those homes somebody already has a contract on, and you'll see those on websites just so you understand that. But the other thing is there's homes that maybe are withdrawn from the market. We can still see those in the multiple listing service, but they won't be out on other websites. These are homes that are still have an active listing agreement, but the seller doesn't want to show the homes right now. So I don't want to get into weeds on this too much, but just understand there's all these other subsets. But Tracy, there's some other places that we might be able to see homes that a buyer can't.
Right. And that's one of the beauties of working with a realtor, right? We might know about off-market properties. We might know about things that are kind of in a hopper somewhere.
Of course, we talked about pendings already, but there's coming soon listings. Sometimes you'll see those on websites, sometimes you won't. Those are homes you can't actually go and tour yet, but you do know that they're coming. There's a thing called an office exclusive property. This is a property where it's not on any websites, not even on the MLS, but within certain offices, it's available. And then there are some listings called MLS only, meaning only other realtors can see it in the MLS because the seller doesn't want it on all those other websites. So there's a lot of nerdy stuff there, but I just want people to understand you got to be working with a realtor if you want to make sure you see everything available.
So that's why we give real-time accuracy, right? Broker to broker networks, new construction not fully listed in MLS, homes pre-market. So all of those types of things fall into the category you're talking about as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And then the other thing during the home shopping process, Tracy, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do other than just the home. Obviously, you want to know about the home, but what about the neighborhood? What
Oh,
about
yeah.
all the other stuff that you might want to research that you can do sitting on your laptop?
One of my favorites is like the walk score because you can get on and it'll show you where the nearest coffee shop, grocery store, transit, school ratings, noise, zoning, all those things. Or you can look them up individually, get on Google Maps. I've had several people, Tigo, when they are moving around, they say, I do not want to back to a busy street or be on a busy street. You can map it out and go, oh, it backs to Wyoming. Of course, I don't want to waste my time and look at that house, right? So sometimes it's just good to put it on a
Yeah.
map,
Yeah, no, there's a lot of resources, and people usually figure that out. Google Maps is amazing, the street view, for example, right?
right?
You can see the house, but then you can walk up and down the street and see, homes on both sides. And one again, a little pro tip on Google Maps is if you look in the lower right, it'll show you when that photograph was taken or when that street view was taken. It could be 3 years old, so it may have changed quite a bit. But
It
that,
has history too sometimes, so you
yeah,
can see back. I had one recently where we did the street view before we went out and looked at homes. We went through each one of them because they were very specific. And we went down the street and the whole street was just like cars. Nobody parked in their garage and it just felt jammed in. And they were like, yeah, we don't want to be on that street. It just,
interesting.
you knew
Yeah,
right
no,
away.
that's a good example. There's a bunch of other stuff. Of course, school rankings, if that's, critical for you, understanding what the schools are in a certain area,
Right.
crime stats, understanding what's going on with crime in certain areas. They even have noise and sound ranking websites, so you can put in an address and it'll tell you what the sound score is. So if it's near the airport, flight path, it's going to have a bad score, for example.
Yeah.
There's zoning maps. Let's say you're looking at a home and there's a vacant property behind it, a vacant lot, and you don't know what it is, you're curious what it's zoned for, you can look that up as well. So there's a lot of resources and things that you can do to understand about the property other than just seeing the property on one of the websites and
Yep.
looking at it, of course, in person.
So, Tigo, one of the next things is that in our market, we still have hot properties, right? Even if it was, a balanced buyer seller market, the gems, so to speak, in our market can still sell very quickly and have competition for them. So, one of our goals in our buyer consultation and in helping you be a great home buyer is to really understand the timing and how urgent we need to be when we find the right home, because we don't want you to miss out. And it's part of that process of making sure that once we find it, we move quickly for you to make sure to get a good offer in that represents what you're willing to do.
Perfect segue. Step 6, make an offer.
I just have to go back to that and say, we're never going to push you to pick a house or settle. I'm not that smart. I can't sell you a house you don't want to buy, right?
Right.
But when you find the right house, I see it. I watch buyers. I mean, like you said, we've sold thousands of houses. We walk in and I can see it in my clients. They're like giggly or they're excited. They're starting to place furniture. They're, picking out their bedrooms. Everything about the property has got everybody excited. So when that happens, we're here to help you with that next step.
Yeah, and so the next step in New Mexico, we have standard purchase contracts that we use, purchase agreements, and most everybody in the market, most realtors in the market use the same forms, which is good because everybody understands them. But this is where you determine, what's the price you're going to pay, what is the different terms, and there's a whole bunch of different terms. One of the big pieces is knowing the dates. Like, what is the timeline? Because there's about, last time I looked, I think 30 some different dates in there
Yeah.
that you put through. And then there's a thing called earnest money, and there's a new thing called independent consideration. And this is money that goes up front as from the buyer, showing that either you're showing good faith by putting down an earnest money, or you're doing independent consideration, which is money from the buyer directly to the seller. That's going to be very common in 2026. Again, I'm not going to get into weeds on that, but this is where you also determine what all those contingencies are going to be. What the inspection timelines, the
Wait, let me
appraisal
stop you.
timeline. Go
They're
ahead.
not going to just decide, right? That's where we come in as
Oh,
their,
right. Good
right.
point.
All of
Yes.
these contingencies, inspections, appraisal, title, homeowners stuff, solar agreements, dates, deadlines, earnest money. That's where we as the realtor consult and say, okay, well, let's sit down and put together what that offer looks like, what's comfortable for you. When do you need to be in your home? What if you've got a rental? When do you have to be out? How do we give you time to move? All of those things that we put together to put the offer together. Obviously, we want to make a strong offer for you that works for you, but we want to know all those details to make sure it works for you, right?
Right. And it's important that you as the buyer, you're going through this with your buyer broker, your realtor, to understand what you're offering, what you're agreeing to, what the timelines are.
One more thing on that is
Yeah.
we are still seeing multiple offers on nice homes,
Oh,
right?
true.
So just knowing that sometimes, the smart terms, negotiating skills of your realtor in addition to price can be really important. And that's where someone who's done a lot of transactions and knows a lot of other realtors to have those conversations. What's important to your seller so that I can see if those things work for my buyer?
Well, and that's, I think, we're kind of in between from writing the offer to going under contract and the process there. But there's that middle part, which is the negotiation.
Right.
And there's a lot that goes in there.
Right.
That's negotiation one, as you always call it. We'll talk about what negotiation two is here in a moment. But this is the point where you agree on what the price is going to be, what the dates are going to be, what type of due diligence and if any, what type of documents that the buyer wants from the seller, and so on. And
Okay,
that's where
so
the
now,
negotiation is back and forth.
now due
We-
diligence. We're under contract.
Yeah.
As realtors, we help our clients figure
If
out
you're keeping track at home, we're on step 7.
step 7. We're starting the due diligence now, the part of the process where we make sure the home is safe, sound, truly what you expected before you commit to fully closing. So it's your chance to have any inspections you want. We as realtors will help you find providers, help you put those things in place, and get you reports based on what you want. We'll tell you what's typical and what's available, get them hired for you, help you facilitate all that. You're welcome to attend those inspections. You get written reports.
Yeah, so let's walk through the different contingencies, okay? And there's a handful of them. And a contingency is a thing that the buyer has to clear and agree to before they move forward with the purchase. I think is that a good definition?
Yeah, it's not so like regimented like that. It's like, okay, we got our title docs, everything looks good. It's not,
Yeah, so let's
yeah,
walk through these and understand the timeline is from when you go under contract to when you actually finalize and close, as we call it, or we do a signing and closing. It can be anywhere from 30 to 45 days. The due diligence period may be shorter. That only may be 2 weeks of it where you're doing your inspection. So let's talk about some of these things. So first off, Tracy, you talked about inspections, and again, it can be a whole gamut of things. It's really up to the buyer what type of inspections they would like to have done, correct?
right. And we'll be talking about that, right? And typically, most buyers are going to get a full home. It's sort of a once over. The home inspector has a checklist, they kind of go from top to bottom. We help find those. They in New Mexico need to be licensed, and they do that in person, and you're welcome to attend. And then they do a written report follow up.
So along that, you said they have to be licensed. There's also very specific guidelines on what the home inspector has to look at and what they don't look at also, which is important to understand. And so there are guidelines, and when you call it the full home inspection, that's what you're getting. But on top of that, it could be things like, radon, obviously, there's pest usually.
There's septic, there's well, there's solar, there's pool, there's,
Right.
whatever the house might have. And
Yeah.
we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So
Great.
then we're in the due diligence period. Some of the other things, part of due diligence, is if you're getting a loan, there's an appraisal typically required. Some homes can get an appraisal waiver, so it's not required if you don't want it. But most homes have an appraisal when there's a loan.
So let me say something, because this is one of those, again, pro tips that you wouldn't really think about until you're in the middle of it. We talk about home inspections, and it's the full home inspection by a licensed inspector that does, follows a specific list. But lenders will talk about the home inspection, but that's a different home inspection. That's what the appraiser does.
And
Actually goes and visits the house, but it's still both called home inspection, so it can throw you off.
Yeah, and the appraiser doesn't do what the other home inspector does, right? The appraiser is going to verify square footage, look at the quality of the finishes, and determine the value. Because if there's a lender, the lender doesn't really get to see the house. So the lender says, I'm going to have you hire this appraiser who's going to justify that we should lend you this much money for that house. So they're basically the eyes of the lender.
Correct. Yeah. So that's another
Part of the due diligence.
part of the due diligence, part of the contingencies that it has to appraise for the value of what the buyer offered to pay.
Otherwise, there's things that happen if it doesn't appraise for the agreed purchase price, but we don't need to go into that right now.
Yeah.
A couple other main due diligence things, title work. Is it clear? Can they convey clear title to you with no encumbrances, no liens against the property type of thing?
Meaning you're actually purchasing what you think you're purchasing, and there's nobody else that owns it. That's really what title insurance is.
Right. And another big one is homeowners insurance. So I don't know, back in the 1970s, Tego, not to date us too much, but do you remember how cars were lemons more common? Like a car was a lemon.
Yeah.
You constantly had problems with your car and you'd say it's a lemon. I can't deal with this car anymore. Houses are the same way. There are houses that have had a lot of homeowners insurance claims, and they're considered a higher risk for insurance companies. So you want to make sure you can get insurance on the house.
Yeah, the takeaway on that is for insurance, for homeowners insurance, don't think of it just as this kind of throwaway thing that you have to do later. Do it right up front so you know right away there's no issues with getting insurance on that property and what the cost is going to be.
I was going to say the insurance cost can vary greatly from house to house, especially if you're in a fire or flood risk area. Some of the mountain properties may require you to cut back trees away from the house or whatever.
And we do have areas, especially when you get south of Albuquerque going into, Bosque Farms, Los Lunas, those areas, Berlin, that are in flood zones as well. But there's also flood zone areas in the Northeast Heights. So,
right.
Yeah, it's one of those things that will come up, and you just need to understand that. And usually when you're looking at properties, you'll know if the property is in a flood zone.
Okay, so while we're in the due diligence period, right, sort of behind the scenes, the lender is doing their part along with you.
Yeah, it's kind of working in parallel. We're doing the inspections, we're checking documents, we're doing all this other stuff, but then the lender still got this whole thing going on over here, right?
Right. And when they say they need something from you, they usually needed it yesterday to keep the loan moving forward. So it's sort of like when you're working full time and you've got a full life after work, it can be hard to keep the lending part going. But the lender is working behind the scenes. They're verifying income, assets, employment. They're going to a final loan underwriting where somebody else looks at the file and says, have they dotted all the T's and crossed all the I's? Are we comfortable
That was pretty funny.
making this loan? They're also locking your interest rate with you when it's appropriate. And they'll be watching interest rates. They'll be talking to you and saying, well, if you want to do this or that with your interest rate, we can. If you pay $100 or whatever, we can get you a little better or blah, blah, right? They're going to go through all those things and lock it with you. So that's going on in the background. So your due diligence includes the lending part.
So let's talk about this. So we're talking about, again, this due diligence period. We call it the contract to close period many times, from when you're under contract, pending, to when you actually go and sign for the home. This is the most stressful part for the buyers. Let's just talk about that, because it's exciting when you're out shopping for homes. You're looking at homes, you're all excited. You're writing an offer, you win the offer. It's all exciting. But there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things happening here. And this is when you're going to be getting a lot of questions from your lender, from your realtor's transaction coordinator, from the home inspector, from all these things. So you just have to understand there's going to be a lot coming at you, and lean on your realtor to help you navigate the steps as you go along. I know we've been talking about this here, but that period, just understand there's going to be things that go sideways.
It happens. Or they need you to do something today and you're in the middle of a big school project, or you're in the middle of something and you can't just drop everything and you get nervous and stressed out. So our role as realtors is to help you stay calm, help you understand what's urgent, what's not urgent, what we can help you with to help you move forward comfortably. We can try to handle most of the details to help you make good decisions, right?
Yeah.
Tego, we're to step 8.
Yeah.
Do you know what step 8 is?
Step 8 is the exciting day where you sign and maybe get your keys that same day and move in.
Let's call it closing day just to make it simple.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, just to clarify, in New Mexico, we say closing, but it's kind of a series of events, right, Tracy?
Right. So signing is signing all the paperwork. And then it's the series of all of that paperwork, getting to title or getting to a lender, and everyone coming together and saying, yep, we're good to make it official at the county. So
Yeah.
that's when you get your keys. Sometimes it's same day, sometimes it's the next day. And that's where we like to time what day of the week you actually sign, because we don't want you signing on Friday and have to wait till Monday to get your keys, unless that's what you want.
There's another pro tip.
Sign
Don't
midweek.
schedule on a Friday at the end of the month. That's when everybody else is.
For movers or anybody, don't do that.
Yeah.
So before you sign, typically we offer you a final walkthrough, and the final walkthrough of your property. Some people are on remote, and we're doing FaceTime walkthroughs because not everybody's in person for signing, or they're not in the state yet. But we do a final walkthrough. We give you that opportunity if you want. And it's just to confirm the house is in typically the same condition as when you saw it last, right? Because sometimes people have moved out. We want to make sure they didn't bang the walls or there was nothing major hidden by furniture. I know once we had a big rug that was missing now because they had moved it out, and we saw that the floor was damaged. It was, those types of things that should have been disclosed. And so closing day, signing, closing, get your keys. Yay.
Yeah, move in and moving day. So, yeah, the takeaway from all of this is there's a lot of steps, and it goes kind of all over the place, right? And I mean, it's not necessarily a linear process. You could be jumping around here and there, but again, having a realtor broker that understands the process and you trust, and you can ask questions to, and you can, call crime because you're freaking out over something. That's going to go for a long way as well. And again, somebody that's knowledgeable about the process and has done it a few times.
That whole team, the vendors, all the different relationships are all so important to get you to that closing day. And yes, there'll have been ups and downs through the process, but what a great thing you've done in buying a home and securing your future and having that pride of home ownership. So Tego, a quick recap.
Yep. Recap. Figure out if you're really ready to be a home buyer or homeowner. Talk to a local realtor that really understands, and make sure it's somebody you connect with. Get your lending in place, get your pre-approval, understand your budget. Do your needs and wants evaluation. Understand what you need versus what you want versus, what might be available. Start your house hunting. That's the fun part.
In person.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah,
Let's
in
get
person.
inside those great houses.
And then it's the offer process and the negotiation process of going under contract. And then it's that whole due diligence, or what we call a contract to close period. And then it's closing, and you celebrate and you move in.
And you move in and you make it your own.
Yeah.
So Tego, if you're ready to take the next step, want to become a home buyer, whether it's your first time or your 10th time, reach out to us. We'd love to help you get started. Like and subscribe this too, and make sure you see all our great videos, right? But don't forget, we have that free quiz. Am I ready to buy a home in New Mexico, with that link
Yeah, I'll
below?
put the link in the show notes here so you can check that out. Thanks. If you made it all the way through, congratulations. And if you got any questions, reach out to us, because I know there's 1,000 other questions that may have come up during this little talk we had here. We are the Venturi Group with Real Broker here in the Albuquerque market. It's Tego and Tracy Venturi and our whole team. And you can reach us at 505-448-8888. Take care.